Hi everyone, I'm Mims and welcome to the channel. Thanks for being here. I haven't done one in a couple of months and I really like to do the tags that are floating around. And Carrie from Carrie's Mystical Musings, for her third channelversary, she started a community tag, and I forget what the name of the tag is. I'm totally going blank. I wrote down all of the prompts, but I forget the actual name of the tag. So I will put the name of the tag in the title and then in the notes. A couple of other things just so I don't forget. I will include her video, as well as if she has a playlist of responses to this tag, I will also include that below, because sometimes it's just fun if you want to get to see them all together. And then I will also include all of the prompts below if you want to comment on her video with your responses, or if you want to comment on my video with your responses, please do so. Or you can also make your own video, whatever kind of makes sense. And the other thing that I will do below all of that, I will include all of the prompts if I didn't say that, and then I will include all of the decks that I've shown in the order that I've shown them below that. And if there are any indie decks, I will also include the link to the indie decks so that you can find them. They won't be affiliate links, but that way you can find those directly. But all of the decks, no matter what, I will include title, publisher, the year, at least the year published on the box that I have, etc., so that you'll be able to find any of them. And there's one for sure that I can think of. I think everything else is in print. I think there's only one out of print deck that I'm gonna show. So I'll make sure to indicate that just in case. Okay, let's get started. The first one, a deck that matches your outward aesthetic, home decor, wardrobe, style. I picked two, and I was thinking in that sort of home decor look. And I picked the, where is it? Where's the title card? The Mountain Dream Tarot by B. Nettles. This is out of print. I think this is the only one. And I picked this specifically, even though these are colored, it's a reproduction of a deck that came out in 1975. It was all black and white photography, but she did hand tinting. So even though these are hand tinted, the aesthetic that I'm thinking about is black and white photography. I have a couple of my photos black and white printed, and then I have a couple from a couple of small, and not small, but there are a couple small prints from independent artists. And I also have a big photo print. And I also have 2 or 3 that also need to be framed that are small, but still. I really love black and white photography, and so that definitely represents an aesthetic of mine. And yeah, so that is Mountain Dream Tarot by B. Nettles. And this is the 2019 version. It was the last one to come out, and at the time it was I think it was the cheapest reproduction that was out there. Okay, the other aesthetic that, again, I'm still kind of thinking in the sense of home decor, is Tarot of Hearts by Isabel Hayes. I think her work is stunning. I actually have been stalking her her website to see if she sells prints or anything, but her art, particularly you can tell in this case, I do think that there is something here that reminds me of Frida Kahlo a bit, but also the colors and things remind me of an artist of whom I have at least 3. I have to count 1, 2, 3. I think I have 3 of her prints, or paintings actually, and then a small, like a wood block print of hers. And the name of the artist is Amy Lynn Stevenson. And somebody might look at her art and look at this and think they don't look anything alike, but there is something for sure in the vibrant color, as well as they are both, I think, based in California still. There's something about this artwork in this deck that definitely reminds me of Amy Lynn Stevenson's work. And I will also include the link to Amy Lynn Stevenson, her social media or her website, just in case you are interested. But I just absolutely, this is a new favorite deck, and I just, anytime that I can bring it out is, yeah, absolutely love it. It's Tarot of Hearts by Isabel Hayes. And this is published by US Games. This came out, I think, in 2024. And I love it. So those two represent an outward aesthetic that I'm going to call my sort of home decor. Okay, the next. Deck that fits a hidden or guilty pleasure. An aesthetic you secretly love and rarely show. I've got two for this. One is more like personal, and then one sort of builds on that home decor thing. So Tattoo Tarot, this is Ink and Intuition. This came out, I think it came out in 2015, but the version I have is from 2021. The artist, as it's listed on the box, is Megan Munden, but I saw a recent deck of theirs where he's listed as Oliver Munden. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I really love tattoo art. I don't know that it's that secret, because I think I've talked about it at least a couple of times on my channel. I don't know that if people who know me in person would necessarily know that. But I have no tattoos, but I do remember in the last 10 years really thinking that I might just, you know, like get a tattoo sleeve, and I just haven't. But I love, and I'm very interested in tattoos. And I don't know if it's more from like a voyeur, or if it's going to be something that, you know, maybe in 5 years I'll be completely tatted up. Who knows? So I call that a hidden aesthetic, but definitely not a guilty pleasure. I just absolutely love tattoo art. And then one more for this prompt. This is more of a hidden aesthetic, because I have been staying somewhere much longer than I originally thought it would be. And so I don't have a lot of my stuff. I have some of my things, but a lot of my things are in storage. And without getting into the detail, the Golden Tarot, which is a reproduction of the Visconti Sforza deck. And this comes to mind specifically, not the majors, but I love the minor. For one, I love the backs of this deck. And I love, you know, thick carpets or rugs. I like area rugs and runners rather than like wall-to-wall carpet. And so I think it would be lovely to have some kind of a carpet like this, or maybe some of these like as a tapestry on a wall. I could sort of see loving that. Now you might be thinking, like, I don't know how that would fit in with my black and white photography, but who cares? This is just for fun. So definitely I could see that for a carpet or a rug, I mean, and then, or a runner. And then I could definitely see, you know, maybe like a tapestry on the wall. But I would not say that the majors would be my aesthetic. So very specifically the minors and the backs of this deck. This is the Golden Tarot, the Visconti Sforza reproduction by Mary Packard. Okay, next, a deck that represents, deck that totally matches your personality. Lately, it's been the Dragon Tarot. I've been going through some stuff. I mean, I guess we all are at all times, but I've been going through some things and I have felt dragon-like, fiery, and wanting to be left alone. I love those backs. I also just really like this deck. And, oh yeah, they're upside down. This is by Peter Berkovnik and Terry Donaldson. This is published by US Games. It's been around. And I just, yeah, this definitely feels fiery. I'm going to say scaly in the sense of, you know, like wanting to be left alone in that regard. So that is Dragon Tarot. And I love it. Next, a deck that represents a fun fact or something unique about you. I have mentioned this already, but it's a favorite deck and it definitely represents. This is Desert Illuminations Tarot by Lindsay Williams. I grew up in New Mexico and it's absolutely my favorite place on earth. I'm not there currently, but I'm going to count that as something unique. New Mexico is not that large population-wise, so I would bet that there's this pretty small portion of the population that can say they grew up there. And I feel like this is such a wonderful example of the multicultural aspect of New Mexico. Its quirkiness, it's very unique of its place, and that definitely, I think, represents my a unique fact about me. The Desert Illuminations Tarot by Lindsay Williams. This is the mass market edition published by US Games. Okay. A deck that feels like your alter ego. In some ways, these I hesitated to do this prompt because it took me a while to I feel like in some ways it's very personal, which is great, but I was trying to figure out how to do it without feeling like I'm having a therapy session. So for an alter ego, I'm going to go with the Goddess of Love Tarot. This is by Gabriella Herstick and illustrated by Julia Popescu. And I just got this past summer. And the reason I'm calling it my alter ego is because as a little kid, I absolutely wore dresses and ribbons in my hair and loved pink and purple. And I would say that definitely in the last few years, I've kind of rebelled against that. Actually, as in my whole adult life, I definitely rebelled against that. And, you know, I like fresh flowers or cut flowers, but I don't like flowers in the aesthetic. And without getting into too much detail, there was something about this deck that made me want to think more about femininity, the feminine in general, pinks, and I don't know. So right now, this deck kind of feels like it is looking at that alter ego. You know, maybe some of that's like inner child work. I don't even know. But this feels like an alter ego, the Goddess of Love Tarot. And it's a very cool deck. And next, let's see. Deck that fits how you are as a bestie. I don't necessarily know that right now I'm showing up as this, but I have been able to be this person in the past, and I definitely want to be able to show up more like this as a friend in the future. And the Adventure Tarot kind of fits perfectly for me. This is by Elizabeth Sue. Artwork is by Jenny Chang. And this deck shows what to me feels like you know, adventure and friendship, and being open and ready for anything, being supportive, but also being strong and letting your friend find their own way. And this reminds me in some ways of friends that I really knew and loved in college and, you know, like late teens, early 20s. And so even if I'm not showing up for my friends right now in this way, I'm hoping to and yearning for reconnecting with some of those older friendships. And so the Adventure Tarot represents that. Even if I'm not showing up like that right now, this deck represents how I want to show up for my friends. Being supportive and yet giving them space, letting us all fly where we need to fly, and take refuge where we need to take refuge. And that is the Adventure Tarot by Elizabeth Sue, artwork by Jenny Chang, and it's an absolutely lovely deck. Okay, a deck that represents a place you'd love to live or a dream vacation. I have two. This is the Great Lakes Oracle, and I picked this because I actually picked this deck because I was looking for, I went to college up on Lake Superior, and oh, by the way, those are the backs. This, I should say who the deck is by, and then I'll get to more of why I picked the deck. It's by Colleen Foodie, I think, and then illustrated by Sarah Palmer. This is an indie deck that came out, I think, a couple of years ago, 2021. And, oh, some of these are upside down. It was a lovely place to go to college. It was a cool town. I also loved being up on the lake. I had never lived so near water. The campus was only about a mile walk to the lake. And while it's not the same, I think, as like living on an ocean, there was something about that big water energy. And it was a lovely and beautiful time. And I definitely would like to go back to visit, but it's also a place that I might not mind maybe returning to live. Whether it's in the town of where that college was or just somewhere up on one of the Great Lakes. So that represents both a place I'd love to live and or visit. That's the Great Lakes Oracle. And this next one also represents, it's the only deck that I have right now that represents that. This next one, I have been thinking about living in a Spanish-speaking country, and I've definitely been looking at either for a little while to travel or for longer term. And so I thought of, so again, where I'd love to live or vacation for sure. I definitely would love to go vacation. But I'm also thinking about a place to live for a long or short term would be Central or South America, specifically in a Spanish-speaking country. And so I picked the Mystical Forest Tarot to represent that. Now this deck is about the Amazon rainforest, but like I said, right now this is the deck that kind of represents that to me, and so we'll go with it. If I'm just thinking of like the general, you know, scape of Central or South America, I know that most of the Amazon rainforest is in Brazil, which is I would be open to Brazil as well. But definitely a place to visit and possibly a place to live for a while. And again, I don't yet know where that will be, but it's definitely in a brainstorming mode of mine. And so I just thought that this tarot deck kind of represents that. Mystical Forest, this is by Cecilia Latari, and the illustrations, the art is by Wes Gama. This came out in 2023. And let's get this back in before we go to the next prompt. Okay, what is the next one? Oh, a deck that brings out your creative style. I went for the Lifeline Tarot. This is an indie deck that came out, I think, in 2021. It's kind of funny because I feel like a lot of these decks have come out in the last 4 or 5 years. This was an indie deck, or it is still an indie deck. I just got it this past, when did I get this in? September? I just got it a few months ago. But what I love about it is this artwork. So it's one line, and let me get, those were a couple of extra cards, so I wanted to show. So it's called the Lifeline Tarot. It's by Hermit's Mirror. And what they've done is they have put, I have a small version of it. I don't think there's a large version of this. I think right now I have the plastic one, but they're both bridge size, I think, for what's available. But what I love about it is you can kind of see how it's very much in the Rider-Waite-Smith vein, but it's all one line for this artwork. So in some cases it's very full, and then in other cases you can sort of see what's left. And this has been a lot of fun to use for creative prompts. You know, looking at this, not so much even like looking at it from the traditional standpoint of tarot, but just thinking about how you can take something that's so known and then make it your own. And it has been a lot of fun to like use as a jumping off point for story and even just doodling. And also even for just I feel like this deck, because there's so much there and yet so much not there, that it definitely gives me space for more intuition, and it just feels like it's been sparking a lot of creativity in a lot of different ways. So that is the Lifeline Tarot by Hermit's Mirror. And then a deck that represents landscape in your dreams. This is not so much landscape, but this definitely feels like it represents dreams. That's the Portals of Presence by Deborah Koff Chapin. You probably, if you don't know this deck, you might know Soul Cards. And she created Soul Cards 1 and 2. And I almost feel like in some ways you could call this like Soul Cards 3. And this definitely, these kind of swirly images and these colors definitely feel like it represents dream, kind of a dream state. That's the Portals of Presence by Deborah Koff Chapin. And that's the deck that represents landscape in your dreams. But I'm just going to say that's kind of more just represents sort of dream state. Kind of that swirly, muted color thing that are my dreams. Okay, a deck that represents life currently, mood, energy, or season of life. I'm going to say the American Renaissance Tarot. And not specifically what this tarot is, but more that it comes in this book. I am very much in a mood of I just want to read, and that's all. But also I am looking at some school and or some certification sorts of things for personal stuff. you know, like possibly going back to school, possibly getting a certification. And so this deck is more about, or how it's showing up right now in this particular, it just reminds me, because this book, or this deck, is all about history and literature. And while that's not specifically what I would be going back to school for, it is that kind of like research mode, brainstorming aspect. And it's also a mood, because if right now all I want to do is just read and not do anything else. So that's the American Renaissance Tarot by Thea Wershing and illustrated by Celeste Peel, or Pyle. Oh, and I can't get those back in there. Okay, and then the last one is a bonus. Deck that you use for predictive readings. I actually was talking to a friend about this a little bit, and I generally don't read tarot for predictive things. I will look at it for the energy and so forth, but this timing oracle deck I got about a year ago. I was using up a gift card on Amazon, and this popped up and it looked like a lot of fun. And it's called Timing Oracle Deck, and they have all of these, there's 60 cards, and they will say anything from like, patience, it's not yet time. And I will sometimes pull this out for myself and use it. And sometimes I just, you know, I want like a time frame. And yeah, so I have been using this over the last year. Yeah, and so sometimes it'll just say like the next full moon or July. And I don't always take a lot of stock in it, but I quite enjoy using it. So that is the 11 prompt, well, the 10 and then the bonus prompt. Thanks to Carrie for this lovely set of prompts. These were very creative and a lot of fun. Go check out her channel if you haven't for some reason. And of course, definitely check out her video, and then check out that playlist of the other responses to these. This was great for her 3-year channelversary. Thanks for being here. I hope you're well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're finding joy. I hope you're finding ways to take care of the earth and others in a mutual aid sense. And I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.